The alarm went off at 4:45 in the morning, the way it had every single day for 10 years. The house was silent. His wife still asleep beside him, breathing slow and even, the way a rested person breathes. He envied that breathing, though he never said so out loud. He didn't even need to open his eyes to know the number. His body had memorized the dark, the cold edge of the room, the exact weight of the blanket he was about to push off. His name was Daniel. And somewhere across those 10 years, waking before the rest of the world had stopped being something he did. It had quietly become who he thought he was. You probably know a Daniel. The one who was up before everyone, who wears his tiredness like a medal. And if you are honest, some mornings, maybe you have been him too. It started with a book. A famous one, published back in 2018, that promised the hour before dawn could change your entire life. Own your morning, it said. Elevate your life. And Daniel believed it with everything he had, the way a person believes a thing they desperately want to be true. So he rose in the cold and the quiet. He journaled. He ran empty streets under the streetlights. He planned whole days while the town was still asleep. Cold showers. Green smoothies before dawn. A gratitude list written by lamplight while his hands were still stiff with sleep. He did all of it. He did it perfectly. And for a while, it looked like it was working. His calendar was full. His mornings were his own. From the outside, he was the picture of a disciplined, driven man. He posted his sunrises. His colleagues admired his stamina. His inbox was answered before most people had opened their eyes. On paper, he was the man everyone was quietly told to become. But there is a part of this that never makes it onto the cover of any book. And Daniel lived it every single afternoon. By 10 in the morning, the sharpness was already gone. A soft fog would roll into his mind, and no amount of coffee could quite burn it off. By 2 in the afternoon, he was running on fumes and willpower alone. He would drift through the meetings that mattered most. He would snap at the people he loved for no reason at all. He drank more coffee than water and told himself it was discipline. He called his exhaustion a price, and he paid it, morning after morning, for 10 long years. There is a particular kind of tiredness that sleep does not fix. It settles behind the eyes and into the shoulders, and it just stays. He had lived with it so long he forgot there was another way to feel. Because that was the story in his head. That everyone who succeeds feels this hollowed out. That rest is simply what people who want less allow themselves. He could not remember the last morning he had woken up and felt genuinely, deeply rested. Not groggy. Not braced for the day. Just rested. It had been years. Maybe longer. And then came the evening that quietly cracked the whole thing open. It was nothing dramatic. Just an ordinary Tuesday, and his young daughter, and a question. He had come home and, without meaning to, fallen asleep sitting up at the kitchen table. Still in his coat. The light fading slowly outside the window. His daughter, 6 years old, padded in and stood beside him. She didn't wake him gently. She just looked at him and asked, "Why are you always so tired?" And he had no good answer. Not one that a child would understand. Not one, if he was honest, that he understood himself anymore. For weeks, he carried that small question like a stone in his pocket. Out of the mouth of a 6-year-old, it had landed harder than any missed target ever had. Why was he always so tired? He had done everything the book told him to do. He had earned the mornings. So why did he feel like this? The answer came from a place he never expected. From the work of a scientist named Till Renneberg, a chronobiologist who spends his life studying the body's inner clock. Renneberg gave a name to exactly what Daniel had been living for a decade. He called it social jet lag. It is the gap between the time your body naturally wants to keep, and the time the world insists you keep instead. Living in that gap, day after day, slowly wears a person down. He had gathered sleep patterns from tens of thousands of people. And what he found was that most of us are quietly living on a schedule our bodies never agreed to. We just call the fallout normal. His research even linked living against your clock to feeling low, to reaching for more caffeine, to a body that never quite settles. Daniel recognized himself in every word. And here is the piece that stopped Daniel cold. Because it is the thing almost no one tells you. Roughly half of your body clock is not a choice at all. It is written into your genes, the same way the color of your eyes is. About 1 in 4 people is simply not built to wake early. Not weak. Not lazy. Not lacking willpower. Just quietly wired for later hours, and there is nothing wrong with it. Think about that for a moment. A quarter of the people around you are told, every day, to perform at an hour their biology is still asleep. And then judged for struggling with it. It is not a character flaw. It is a clock. And clocks, unlike character, are not something you can shame into changing. Daniel, it turned out, was one of them. He was never a morning person pretending to struggle. He was a late rhythm person forcing himself into someone else's schedule. Every early morning had taken a little more than it gave back. 10 years of small withdrawals from an account he never let himself refill. No wonder he felt empty by noon. For 10 years, he had not been building discipline at all. He had been rowing hard against his own current, and calling the exhaustion a virtue. So he did something that, at first, felt exactly like giving up. Like failure with a capital letter. He reached over, and he turned off the 4:45 alarm. And then, for the first time in a decade, he let himself sleep until his body was actually finished. The first few mornings, the guilt was almost unbearable. He lay there certain he was falling behind, certain the disciplined world was already up and winning without him. That guilt is the hardest part. It is also a lie. So he stayed with it. He gave it 2 full weeks. And slowly, the guilt quieted, replaced by the simple feeling of being fully awake. Around this time, he found a line written more than 100 years ago, by a thoughtful man named John Lubbock. Rest is not idleness, Lubbock wrote, and to lie sometimes on the grass under the trees on a summer's day is by no means a waste of time. Rest is not idleness. Daniel had spent 10 years believing the exact opposite, and it had quietly cost him more than he ever admitted. He thought about all the meetings he had drifted through, the patience he had run out of, the evenings he had been too tired to really be there. All to protect an hour that was never his. So now, he woke when he was ready. Usually a little after 7. No alarm screaming into the dark. Just morning arriving at its own pace. He moved his hardest, most important work to late morning, when his mind finally clicked into focus, sharp and clear and fully his own. The afternoons that used to be a slow collapse became productive again. The evenings, which he had always spent recovering, he could finally spend living. He stopped apologizing for the hours that were actually his. He stopped pretending to be a person he was never designed to be. And something he did not expect began to happen. The work got better. Noticeably, steadily better. Not because he was trying harder. He was trying less. It got better because, for the first time in years, he was truly awake for it. Within about 2 years, the striving, exhausted, 5 a.m. version of himself had been quietly out-earned by the rested one. Same man. Same ambition. Same hunger to build something that mattered. The only thing that changed was the hour on the clock. The book had not been entirely wrong. Mornings really can be powerful. It had just left out the one detail that mattered most. It was never about 5 a.m. It was about your 5 a.m. whenever that truly is. He did not become less ambitious. If anything, he wanted more. He just stopped setting his ambition on fire every morning to stay warm through a day he could barely feel. And this next part is not really about Daniel at all. This part is about you. Because somewhere in your life, you may be carrying a rule that was never actually yours to begin with. A schedule you inherited. From a book. From a boss. From some confident voice that told you the winners always rise first, and the rest are just making excuses. And every single morning you fail to match that rule, you pay a small, silent tax. A little tax of guilt, charged before the day has even begun. But real discipline was never about the number on the clock when you open your eyes. It was always about knowing yourself. And then having the honesty to build your life around what is actually true, instead of what you were told should be true. So much of what we call laziness is really just a mismatch. A good person, with real drive, simply pointed at the wrong hours. You are not undisciplined. You may simply be awake at the wrong time, pouring your best energy into your emptiest hours. So here is one quiet, doable thing to try. Not a whole new system. Just one small experiment, starting tonight. For the next few days, gently notice the hour your mind feels clearest. Not when you wish it did. Not when a book says it should. When it actually, honestly does. It might surprise you. So many people discover their real genius hour is nowhere near sunrise, and they have spent years feeling guilty for it. Maybe it is early after all. Maybe it is mid-morning. Maybe it is 10 at night, when the house goes quiet. There is no wrong answer here. There is only your answer. Then take the one task that matters most to you, and move it into that window. Just that one thing. Protect it there. Guard it like it matters, because it does. Turn off the notifications. Close the door. Give your sharpest hour to the thing you most want to build. That is the whole shift. You stop fighting the clock, and you start finally working with it. And the guilt has nothing left to hold on to. Because success was never really the hour you woke up. It was the quiet honesty to work with the person you already are. You do not owe anyone your sunrise. You only owe yourself an honest look at when you are truly at your best, and the courage to protect it. Let this be your one quiet minute to set down a rule that was never yours to carry in the first place. And one evening, months later, his daughter wandered into the kitchen again. But this time he was awake. Present. She didn't ask why he was tired. She just climbed into his lap and told him about her day. That was the moment he knew he had chosen right. Not the earnings. Not the results. That. Somewhere out there, an alarm is still set for 4:45. And tonight, if it is yours, you have full permission to reach over and turn it off. Rest well. The work will be better for it. And so, quietly, will you? Tomorrow, another minute like this one, waiting whenever you are ready.